Prince Harry sharing painful and deeply personal details of the family rift that rocked the British royal family and the world.
I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the truth is out there.
The unlikely standoff at Kensington Palace. A seemingly ordinary day at Kensington Palace turned into one of the most unforgettable moments in recent royal history. Prince Harry and Prince William, two of the most talked-about royals, found themselves at the center of an unexpected spectacle, one that was not caused by any royal scandal, but rather by a simple family visit. What started as a casual trip for Queen Camilla's daughter, Laura Parker Bowles, quickly escalated into a full-blown comedy of errors. At the gates of the palace, Laura found herself blocked by an unlikely figure, the royal family's longtime nanny, a woman known for her strict adherence to palace rules. For years, this nanny had been a staple in the royal household, a figure of authority who had kept the palace in check with unshakable resolve. But today, her no-nonsense approach would clash with the royal family's more modern views. As Laura was prevented from entering the palace, the situation quickly spiraled from confusing to hilarious. What could have been a routine family gathering became a battleground for royal protocol, tradition, and, most surprisingly, humor. Would the nanny relent? Would family ties be tested to the breaking point? And why was a seemingly simple visit causing such an uproar? The answers would come in the most unexpected ways, and the royal family would soon learn that even the strictest rules can be bent, sometimes for the sake of a good laugh. As the story unfolded, everyone began to realize that the nanny wasn't just protecting the palace, she was guarding an old and cherished tradition. But was it worth the chaos that followed? Little did anyone know, this moment at the gates would go down as one of the most absurd and hilarious royal dramas ever. What happens next is something even the royal family couldn't have predicted. The unexpected visitor Kensington Palace, an iconic symbol of British royalty, had seen countless royal visits over the years, but nothing quite like this. Laura Parker Bowles, daughter of Queen Camilla, had been invited by her stepbrother Prince William for a casual family visit. As she approached the gates, there was nothing unusual about the scene. The palace was as majestic as always, and Laura had visited many times before. But today, something was different. Today, she would meet a formidable force at the entrance. The royal nanny, a woman who had served the family for decades, stood at her usual post. She had always been an integral part of the palace's inner workings, managing everything from the royal children's schedules to overseeing the everyday operations of the household. Her reputation for strict adherence to the rules was well known, and she didn't hesitate for a second when Laura arrived. The gates were closed, and despite Laura's claim of being family, the nanny stood her ground. No entry without proper clearance, she declared. Laura was taken aback. She had never been stopped before, and yet today, she found herself in a confrontation she never expected. The nanny's behavior was puzzling. Why was she being so strict? Was there some deeper issue at play? And why now, of all times, was the nanny so adamant about following protocol to the letter? It seemed like a small misunderstanding, yet it quickly escalated into something much larger. Laura began to question whether her connection to the royal family, something she had always taken for granted, was truly as secure as she thought. As the standoff continued, tensions mounted, and a shocking revelation about the nanny's mysterious behavior started to emerge. Was this just a simple misunderstanding, or was there more to the story? Media frenzy begins. As the situation at the gates grew more absurd, word quickly spread throughout the palace, and within moments, the entire staff was buzzing with excitement and confusion. The news that Laura was being blocked by the nanny reached Prince William and Prince Harry, who, at first, thought it was a joke. But the more they heard about the situation, the more they realized it was real. The nanny, known for her unwavering loyalty and strict rule-following, was not about to let anyone through without the proper clearance. Not even Laura. The brothers, both well accustomed to dealing with the media and the scrutiny that came with being members of the royal family, found themselves in the middle of a spectacle that no one could have predicted. As the news began to spread, the palace gates turned into the epicenter of a media frenzy. Journalists and photographers, always eager to capture the smallest bit of royal drama, quickly gathered outside, hoping to get a glimpse of the unfolding standoff. the tabloids had already latched onto the story, spinning headlines about the royal gatekeeper and the palace blockade. What started as a family visit quickly became the talk of the town, with royal watchers and media outlets eager to analyze every move. Prince Harry, ever the jokester, found the whole thing rather amusing, but even he could see that the situation was getting out of hand. The media, as always, would turn any story into a circus, and this was no exception. But behind the comedy was a serious question. Why had the nanny gone to such lengths to stop Laura from entering the gates? With the media now involved, the situation was about to escalate beyond anyone's control. But the truth behind the nanny's actions was still hidden. What was her real motive? The hidden power of the nanny. The more the brothers delved into the situation, the more they realized that the nanny was no ordinary staff member. She wasn't just a caretaker or a supervisor. She was a guardian of royal tradition. Her role in the palace had grown over the years, and she had become as much a fixture of royal life as the crown itself. Known for her loyalty and commitment to maintaining order, she had earned the trust and respect of every member of the royal family. But there was something more, something deeper, that motivated her to act with such authority. As the standoff continued, Prince William began to investigate the situation more thoroughly. What he discovered was both fascinating and unsettling. The nanny's strict adherence to the rules was not just about protecting the family's privacy. It was about preserving a sense of order that she felt was slipping away. For years, the royal family had faced increasing scrutiny, and the nanny's role had evolved into one of safeguarding their legacy. But was this constant vigilance leading her to make decisions that went beyond her remit? Prince Harry, meanwhile, took a more light-hearted approach to the drama. While William was deeply entrenched in figuring out the motivations behind the nanny's actions, Harry couldn't help but joke about the situation. He commented that the nanny's gatekeeping skills were unmatched, likening her to a secret agent tasked with protecting the royal family from all threats, real or imagined. But as the hours wore on, even Harry had to acknowledge that something wasn't quite right. The nanny's behavior seemed more like a test of loyalty than a simple enforcement of rules. The deeper Prince William dug, the more he uncovered about the nanny's mysterious role in the palace. But was her dedication to tradition helping or hindering the royal family? The family confrontation. As the day continued and the standoff persisted, the royal family was left to grapple with the situation at hand. Queen Camilla, who had sent Laura to visit, was both perplexed and somewhat embarrassed. Her daughter was being blocked from entering her own family's palace, and for what? A failure to follow some obscure protocol? Camilla, though used to royal rules, found herself questioning the nanny's judgment. The situation soon reached a boiling point. After hours of negotiation, Prince William decided to intervene directly, and the palace doors were finally opened. But what happened next was truly unexpected. The nanny, who had steadfastly refused to allow Laura entry, finally relented, but only after a private conversation with William. No one knew what was said behind those closed doors, but when the gates were finally opened, there was an air of resolution. The family gathered inside the palace, the mood a mix of relief and tension. What had started as a simple visit had now become a defining moment for the royal family. Was the nanny's unyielding stance a sign of her deep loyalty to the monarchy, or had she overstepped her bounds? Prince Harry, who had spent most of the day joking about the situation, now saw the deeper implications. What happened behind the scenes between William and the nanny? And was the family truly united, or were cracks starting to show in their carefully constructed facade? The media spin. As the royal family's internal drama unfolded, the media was quick to seize on the story. The headlines were everywhere, each one more sensational than the last. Royal nanny blocks Camilla's daughter from entering palace, read one headline, while another claimed, family tensions at Kensington Palace as nanny refuses to let in royal member. The press, always eager to turn any royal incident into a spectacle, had turned what could have been a small misunderstanding into the latest royal scandal. But as the days passed, the story took on a life of its own. The press speculated endlessly about the motivations behind the nanny's actions. Was she simply following protocol, Or was there something more personal at play? The tabloids, ever hungry for a juicy story, turned every possible detail into a headline, with little regard for the truth. The royal family was no longer in control of the narrative. The media had taken over, twisting the story into whatever served their agenda. The royal family, used to the media's attention, couldn't ignore the impact this story was having. The nanny, once a trusted and respected figure, was now being portrayed as a villain in the eyes of the public. And yet, behind the headlines, the family remained united, trying to protect their own from the relentless media machine. As the media circus continued, the royal family's reputation hung in the balance. What would happen next? Would the family survive this latest scandal, or would it tear them apart? The strain on family ties. Behind the closed doors of the palace, the royal family was left to reflect on the day's events. The standoff at the gates had been embarrassing for everyone involved, but it also exposed underlying tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. For Queen Camilla, the incident was a reminder of the delicate balance she had to maintain between her new role within the royal family and her relationship with her children from her previous marriage. Her daughter, Laura, had always felt like an outsider in the royal fold, though she had been included in many family gatherings. This incident, however, brought her feelings of alienation to the forefront. Despite being the daughter of Queen Camilla, Laura had often been overshadowed by the more prominent figures in the family, especially her royal stepbrothers, Prince William and Prince Harry. The fact that she was blocked from entering the palace by a figure who had been a part of their lives for so long only emphasized her position as an outsider. For Prince William, this incident had forced him to confront the complexities of royal life and the pressures of tradition. He had always been a proponent of maintaining the royal family's legacy and order, but the nanny's rigid adherence to protocol had caused more harm than good. He found himself questioning whether tradition was worth the damage it had done to his family's relationships. How could he reconcile his duties to the monarchy with his personal feelings for his family? And more importantly, how could he manage to keep things from spiraling further out of control? Prince Harry, on the other hand, found himself caught between his brother's serious nature and his own irreverence. He understood that something deeper was going on, but he also knew that humor was his way of coping with the absurdity of the situation. Still, even he couldn't ignore the emotional toll it had taken on everyone. As much as he wanted to deflect and make jokes, he knew that his family's public image had been damaged, and it was unclear if they could ever fully recover from the fallout. The tension inside the palace was palpable, and the fallout from the standoff at the gates would linger far longer than anyone expected. Was this just the beginning of an unraveling of royal unity, or would they find a way to put their differences aside? The nanny's secret. As the royal family dealt with the aftermath of the palace gate incident, a startling revelation came to light. It wasn't just a matter of rules being enforced. The nanny, it seemed, had been operating under a sense of duty far more personal than anyone had realized. For years, the nanny had been the family's most trusted member, one who not only cared for the royal children, but also served as a quiet protector of their image. Her strict nature and loyalty had earned her the respect of the family, but there was more to her than met the eye. She had become not just an enforcer of palace protocol, but a silent guardian of royal tradition. A tradition she believed was slipping through the cracks of modernity. The monarchy, as it had been traditionally known, was under increasing scrutiny, and the nanny had come to see herself as the last line of defense. She had taken it upon herself to uphold the legacy of the royal family, believing that the family's image must be preserved at all costs. Her actions at the gates of Kensington Palace, though seemingly harsh, were a reflection of her deep, perhaps misguided sense of loyalty to the crown. What she had failed to see was the emotional cost of her actions. Her duty to protect the royal family's image had blinded her to the needs of the very people she sought to protect. Prince William, for one, had seen the damage her actions had caused and felt torn between his loyalty to the family and his desire to protect his own family's well-being. The revelation about the nanny's motivations gave the family a new perspective on her role within the palace. She wasn't just a figure who followed orders. She was a person with her own complex emotions and an unwavering sense of duty. But the real question was, had her actions caused irreparable harm to the royal family's unity? As the truth about the nanny's motivations came to light, the royal family was faced with a difficult question. Could the damage caused by her strict adherence to tradition ever be undone? Or was the legacy of royal protocol too deep to be shaken? A family divided. The aftermath of the Palace Gate incident revealed fractures within the royal family that had long been ignored. Despite their public appearances of unity, the members of the royal family were often divided by hidden tensions. This event, though seemingly trivial, brought those tensions to the surface, forcing each family member to confront their own relationships with tradition, loyalty, and each other. Prince William, caught between his role as a future monarch and his desire to protect his family, found himself at a crossroads. He could no longer ignore the complexities of royal life. As much as he had dedicated himself to the monarchy, he began to question whether he had been sacrificing his personal happiness for the sake of duty. His relationship with his brother, Harry, had always been complicated, but now, even that bond was being tested. Harry's irreverence and humor, while often a source of light in difficult times, had become a point of contention. William was increasingly frustrated with Harry's reluctance to take things seriously. Yet, despite their differences, both brothers shared a common understanding. The royal family, as it stood, was fragile, and every action they took had the potential to alter its future. Queen Camilla, watching the drama unfold, found herself caught between her loyalty to her husband, King Charles, and her desire to protect her children. Laura, her daughter from her previous marriage, had always felt like an outsider in the royal fold. Camilla had done her best to make Laura feel included, but the tension that had existed between them for years was now more palpable than ever. The nanny's actions had made Laura's position in the family even more tenuous, and it seemed as though she would always be seen as an outsider, no matter how much she tried to fit in. In the end, it was clear that the royal family had been tested in ways they had never anticipated. The public spectacle, fueled by the media frenzy, had laid bare the fragile nature of their unity. Each family member had their own take on the situation, and while some were eager to move on, others couldn't forget the deep rift that had formed in the wake of the events. As the royal family continued to grapple with their differences, one question lingered. Could they ever truly heal the divisions that had been exposed? Or was the royal family destined to remain fractured forever? The royal media circus. The royal family's image, once carefully curated and protected, had now become a subject of relentless scrutiny. The media, always hungry for a story, had turned the gates of Kensington Palace into the epicenter of royal drama. As the situation unfolded, the press painted the nanny's actions as part of a larger narrative of royal dysfunction. Headlines blared about family infighting and royal dysfunction, with each report more sensational than the last. The nanny, once a beloved figure behind palace walls, was now being vilified in the public eye. The media, as always, had a unique ability to turn even the smallest incident into a full-blown scandal. This time, however, the royals were caught in a whirlwind of their own making. While the family had hoped to keep the situation private, the media's reach was too powerful. Photos of Laura standing at the gates, with the nanny blocking her entry, quickly went viral. The tabloids had a field day, offering wild speculation about the family's inner turmoil. As the press frenzy continued, the royal family was forced to navigate the increasingly difficult situation. Each statement, each public appearance, was carefully choreographed to try to minimize the damage. But no matter what they did, the media seemed to have the upper hand. The family's every move was scrutinized, and even their attempts to move past the incident only seemed to fuel the fire. The public perception of the royal family had been altered irrevocably. Once a symbol of stability and tradition, they were now seen as just another celebrity family caught in a scandal. And for the first time in years, the monarchy's future seemed uncertain. With the media spinning the situation out of control, the royal family was left to pick up the pieces. Would they be able to reclaim their image, or was this incident the beginning of a new chapter in their history? The resolution. In the end, the palace's internal drama had reached a breaking point. The nanny, who had once been a symbol of unwavering loyalty to the royal family, finally acknowledged the consequences of her actions. She realized that her strict adherence to tradition had caused unnecessary turmoil within the family, and the damage could not be undone by simply reopening the gates. For Prince William and Prince Harry, the incident had been a wake-up call. They had always known that being part of the royal family came with immense responsibility, but the events at the gates made them realize just how fragile that responsibility truly was. The monarchy's future, as they both knew, was built on public perception and unity. If the royal family couldn't navigate their personal differences and protect each other from the media's prying eyes, their legacy would be at risk. As the royal family gathered to discuss the events that had transpired, it was clear that they had to come together, not just for the sake of the monarchy, but for the sake of each other. Despite the chaos that had unfolded, they found a way to heal the rifts and rebuild their bond. The nanny, having seen the damage she had caused, apologized for her actions, and the family agreed to move forward, learning from the experience. The incident at Kensington Palace, though hilarious and chaotic, had brought the royal family closer together. It had exposed the cracks in their carefully constructed image, but it also allowed them to rebuild it stronger than before. The monarchy, like any family, was imperfect, but it was also resilient, and it was clear that they would continue to endure. After the storm had passed, the royal family found strength in their unity. But would the public ever forget the day the gates of Kensington Palace became the scene of a royal standoff? Only time would tell. The aftermath: a family reconciled? The gates of Kensington Palace, once a symbol of security and grandeur, had now become a symbol of dysfunction. The royal family's public image had taken a hit, and the press continued to run wild with speculation. But behind the closed doors of the palace, the family was beginning to pick up the pieces. The media's attention had only intensified the pressure, and with each new headline, the royal family was forced to confront the reality of what had happened. Queen Camilla, who had initially been embarrassed by the media frenzy, took it upon herself to bring her family back together. She knew that the royal family's unity was the key to maintaining their standing in the eyes of the public. The nanny, once a figure of unquestioned authority, was now the subject of widespread scrutiny. But she wasn't the only one to blame. Camilla herself had been forced to reckon with her own role in the drama. The incident had exposed the deep-rooted tensions within the family, tensions that had long been hidden beneath the polished surface of their public appearances. For Laura, the visit had become more than just a family gathering. It had become a reflection of the complicated nature of her relationship with her step-family. Though she had always been accepted as family, this incident made her feel more like an outsider than ever before. She had always struggled with her position in the royal family, and the events at the gates only highlighted her insecurities. For Prince William, the entire situation had been a wake-up call. He had always prided himself on his ability to maintain the royal family's reputation, but he was beginning to realize that the weight of that responsibility might be more than he could bear. The nanny's actions, though driven by her loyalty to the monarchy, had exposed a gap between what the royal family needed and what the public expected. William, who had always followed tradition, found himself questioning whether those traditions were truly serving his family, or if they were holding them back from evolving. Prince Harry, as always, had found humor in the chaos. But even he couldn't ignore the emotional toll the situation had taken on everyone. The brothers, though vastly different in their approach to life, had been forced to confront the fact that their family wasn't as invulnerable as they had once thought. The gates of Kensington Palace, once a symbol of royal strength, had now become a battleground for competing values. With the media breathing down their necks and tensions running high within the palace, the royal family had to decide whether to embrace the future or hold on to the past. Would they ever be able to reconcile their differences, or had the damage been done? The royal rebuilding. The royal family, now fully aware of the damage done by the gate incident, began the painstaking process of rebuilding their image and their relationships. Prince William, determined to regain control of the situation, called a family meeting. The purpose was clear: to resolve the lingering tension and to ensure that their future as a family, both in public and private, was secure. Prince Harry, ever the optimist, offered a lighter perspective. While William focused on the logistics of repairing their public image, Harry insisted that they needed to find a way to laugh at the situation. The absurdity of a nanny blocking Laura at the gates had, in Harry's mind, become something of a legend. a story they would all tell with laughter in the years to come. But despite the humor, it was clear that the wounds from the incident ran deep. The family knew they couldn't simply laugh it off. They had to address the emotional toll it had taken on them individually and as a unit. Laura, who had spent so many years feeling like an outsider, was particularly affected by the standoff. The nanny's actions had reinforced her position as someone who wasn't fully embraced by the royal fold. Despite the family's efforts to make her feel included, she had always struggled to truly find her place. The events at the gates only made that feeling more pronounced. Queen Camilla, who had been dealing with her own feelings of guilt and frustration, was determined to make things right. She reached out to Laura, speaking to her openly about the complexities of their relationship and the misunderstandings that had been a part of their dynamic for years. Camilla acknowledged that her daughter's feelings of isolation were valid, and she promised to do more to make her feel like an integral part of the royal family. At the same time, the royal family knew that they had to regain the public's trust. The media had torn into them from every angle, and it was clear that their carefully constructed image of perfection was no longer viable. In the age of social media, where every misstep was scrutinized, the royal family's every move would be under constant observation. It was no longer enough to rely on tradition alone. They needed to adapt to the changing times and rebuild their reputation from the ground up. As the royal family worked through their emotional baggage and began the process of rebuilding their public image, a new challenge arose. How could they navigate a world that no longer believed in royal infallibility? Well, that was a royal mess, wasn't it? From a strict nanny to a media frenzy, this bizarre moment at Kensington Palace has shaken things up in ways no one saw coming. What's next for the royal family? Will they learn from their mistakes or continue to clash with tradition? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure to hit like and subscribe for more shocking royal moments. You won't want to miss what happens next.
I haven't really scraped the surface on my experience, but I do think that I would never want someone else to feel that way.
As one of the most publicized royal couples in modern history, the lives of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been under constant scrutiny. Their every move, every word, and every decision have been analyzed by the press and the public. However, no one could have predicted the emotional moment that would soon unfold between them. Prince Harry, known for his candidness and open heart, found himself in tears after witnessing an unexpected transformation in his wife, Meghan Markle. This wasn't just any change, it was a shift that caught everyone by surprise. What could have possibly led to this? Meghan, who had always been seen as a strong and independent woman, had undergone a dramatic personal evolution. This transformation was both visible and emotional, and for Harry, it represented a new chapter in their lives together. For a woman who had once faced relentless criticism and had to fight against public perception, this was a moment of reckoning. It was not only a realization of her own growth, but also a turning point for their family as a whole. As the couple navigated the challenges of living outside the royal spotlight, Meghan began to evolve in ways that even Prince Harry hadn't anticipated. The impact of this transformation, both on her and on their relationship, would soon become undeniable. She was no longer just the Duchess of Sussex, a figure defined by royal duty and protocol. Meghan had stepped into her own, taking control of her personal and professional life, advocating for causes she believed in, and shedding the weight of the media's harsh judgment. This new Meghan was someone Harry had never seen before. She was confident, outspoken, and unapologetically herself. This moment of change wasn't just a superficial shift in her image. It was a deeper transformation that affected her entire being. It was a reawakening, and in Harry's eyes, it was a revelation. Meghan had not just changed her role in the world, she had evolved into the woman she was always meant to be. And this change would shape the future of their lives together. This chapter of their journey, though full of challenges, marked the beginning of a new, more authentic era for both of them. Meghan's journey of self-discovery. Meghan Markle's transformation did not happen overnight. It was the result of years of personal growth, the pressure of being in the public eye, and the emotional weight of the criticism she faced. After stepping down from royal duties, Meghan found herself at a crossroads. She was no longer just a royal. She was a mother, a wife, and a woman rediscovering her voice. What led to this pivotal change? Meghan's journey of self-discovery began with her stepping away from the constant media coverage that had once defined her life. She and Harry sought refuge in their new home, far from the prying eyes of the press, and Meghan finally had the space to breathe, to think, and to explore who she truly was beyond the expectations of royalty. With the support of Prince Harry, she found the courage to explore her own identity without the constraints of royal life. No longer living in the shadow of tradition, Meghan was able to redefine her purpose, becoming an advocate for causes she truly believed in. As Meghan continued her work with various charities and causes, her self-assurance grew. She used her platform to speak out about racial inequality, women's rights, and mental health, issues that were close to her heart. Her activism became her voice in a world that had once tried to silence her. She found joy in helping others, in using her position for good. Meghan was no longer the woman defined by public opinion or royal expectations. Instead, she was finding peace in who she truly was. This newfound clarity transformed Meghan, not only in how she carried herself, but in how she approached life and her role in the world. Meghan had always been a driven and ambitious woman, but as she found her voice outside of royal duties, she blossomed in a way that no one, not even Harry, had fully anticipated. Her transformation wasn't just about stepping into her power. It was about shedding the past, the labels, and the limitations that had been placed on her. Meghan was free to be unapologetically herself, and she was embracing it with every step she took. Harry's reaction: a changed man. For Prince Harry, this transformation was both inspiring and overwhelming. As someone who had always been protective of Meghan, watching her embrace this new version of herself brought tears to his eyes. It wasn't just the change in Meghan that affected him. It was the profound effect it had on their relationship. The emotional toll of being under constant media scrutiny had been wearing on both of them, but Harry saw a side of Meghan that he had never witnessed before. She was no longer burdened by the weight of royal obligations or public expectations. Instead, she was free. Free to live life on her terms. Free to be the woman she had always wanted to be. And free to stand beside her husband as an equal in every sense. This wasn't just about watching his wife succeed. It was about watching her embrace a version of herself that Harry had always believed she could be. But now he was seeing it unfold before his very eyes. This transformation allowed Harry to see a deeper connection between them. It wasn't just about the love they shared. It was about the strength they had found in each other. Meghan's transformation represented the growth of their relationship, as they were no longer just navigating the pressures of royal life, but truly living for one another. Harry realized that, just as Meghan had grown into her own, he too had evolved, becoming more attuned to her needs and desires, and more open to his own growth. Harry's tears were not just a reaction to Meghan's newfound confidence. They were a reflection of the deep bond they shared. They had weathered the storm of public scrutiny together, and in doing so, had learned to grow together as individuals and as a couple. This journey had strengthened their connection in ways they never thought possible. The emotional growth they had undergone was a testament to the power of love, mutual respect, and understanding. The road ahead. As Meghan's transformation continued, Prince Harry also experienced his own changes. The couple began to embrace new challenges and opportunities, leading them down paths they never imagined when they first met. They were no longer trapped by the expectations of the royal family or the weight of public opinion. Instead, they were charting their own course, together. The journey ahead was not without its obstacles, but the bond between Harry and Meghan had never been stronger. They had weathered the storm of public scrutiny together, and in the process, they had both transformed, Meghan into a confident, empowered woman, and Harry into a man who understood the true power of love, vulnerability, and emotional growth. As Meghan's voice became louder, Harry's support for her became stronger. He was no longer the prince who had once followed the family's dictates. He had evolved into a man who made his own decisions, fought for his beliefs, and supported his wife wholeheartedly in doing the same. Together, they were no longer just a couple in the public eye. They were a family, navigating life with purpose, authenticity, and an unbreakable bond. This unexpected transformation was just the beginning of a new chapter for them both. As they moved forward, they were more than just the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They were powerful advocates, compassionate leaders, and loving parents. And no matter what the future held, they were ready to face it together. The media's shift in perception. For years, Meghan Markle had been relentlessly pursued by the media. She had been vilified for every decision, every action, and every move she made. From her relationship with Prince Harry to her departure from royal duties, the press was quick to judge, scrutinize, and criticize her. However, something began to change. As Meghan grew into her new role outside the royal family, there was a noticeable shift in how she was portrayed. The public began to see Meghan not just as a controversial figure, but as someone who was standing firm in her own truth. Her transformation, both personal and professional, was undeniable. She became more involved in her charitable work, using her platform to speak out on social issues, including racial inequality, women's rights, and mental health. With every new project she took on, she became more visible, not just as a former royal, but as a powerful voice in her own right. This shift wasn't just about changing how she was portrayed. It was also about how Meghan chose to embrace the changing narrative. As she delved deeper into issues she was passionate about, her voice began to resonate more with people who had once seen her as the villain in a royal soap opera. It wasn't just about her being an ex-royal. It was about the actions she was taking and the stories she was telling. With each interview, charity initiative, and public appearance, Meghan demonstrated an unwavering commitment to using her influence for good. The world began to see her not just as someone connected to royalty, but as someone capable of bringing change. For the first time in years, the media couldn't simply box her into the narratives they had created. Meghan had taken control of her own story, and the world watched in awe as the woman who had once been criticized for every move she made became a beacon of empowerment and change. The same media outlets that had once taken aim at her were now forced to acknowledge the remarkable transformation she had undergone. They were left to ask, how did Meghan Markle go from being an international target of negativity to a woman of influence, advocacy, and self-assurance? It wasn't just about breaking free from royal constraints. It was about taking control of her narrative, both for herself and for her family. Prince Harry's support. A rock through it all. Prince Harry's unwavering support for Meghan throughout this entire transformation has been pivotal. While Meghan was busy redefining herself, Harry stood by her side, providing emotional support and encouragement. His role in this transformation cannot be understated. He was the one person who saw Meghan not just as the former Duchess of Sussex, but as the woman she was becoming. Harry, who himself had undergone his own evolution in the public eye, understood better than anyone what it was like to have the world scrutinize every aspect of your life. Having lived much of his life in the shadow of his mother's tragic death and the ensuing media frenzy, Harry knew the pressures that came with public attention. He had always struggled with the weight of the expectations placed on him, and when Meghan entered his life, he found someone who shared similar burdens. He admired her resilience and strength from the very beginning, knowing how difficult it must have been for her to face constant criticism, especially as a woman of color. As Meghan embraced her new role outside the royal family, Harry supported her every step of the way. He was always the one behind the scenes, keeping her grounded when the media came after her or when she doubted herself. His constant encouragement allowed Meghan to stand taller, speak louder, and become the person she always wanted to be. Harry, who had always been seen as the more rebellious royal, was the first to understand the need for Meghan to step into her power. For him, this was not just about supporting his wife. It was about witnessing her become the woman who had always been inside her, waiting to break free. Meghan's transformation wasn't just a personal triumph. It was a collective one, and Harry's love, support, and commitment to her were essential parts of the journey. As they walked this new path together, Harry realized that their marriage had not only survived, it had thrived. It had deepened, strengthened, and evolved, just like Meghan herself. The impact on their marriage. As Meghan's transformation unfolded, so too did the bond between her and Harry. The changes in Meghan weren't just personal. She was evolving as a partner, a mother, and a public figure. These shifts in her life were naturally going to affect her marriage to Harry, but rather than causing strain, it only seemed to strengthen their connection. They had always been a team, but now they were navigating life with a deeper understanding of each other's needs, dreams, and desires. The couple had always been open about the challenges they faced, especially in the public eye. But as Meghan stepped into her own power, Harry realized how much he had underestimated her potential. He had seen her face adversity with grace, but it was only now that he truly understood the depth of her strength. As Meghan found her voice, it brought a new dimension to their relationship, one that was based on mutual growth and respect. Their marriage became a partnership not just in the sense of love and support, but in ambition and purpose. They were no longer just the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They were two individuals united by a shared mission to change the world for the better. What's more, the emotional connection between them deepened. No longer did they merely have a relationship built on shared history and royal obligations. They had become two souls with aligned visions for the future. Meghan's transformation allowed Harry to see a new side of her, a side that reflected strength, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to making a difference. And this new side of Meghan inspired Harry to continue evolving alongside her, adapting and growing just as she had. Every milestone Meghan achieved, Harry celebrated with her, knowing that each success was a testament to her unwavering determination. But beyond the successes, Harry also cherished the quiet moments with her, moments that spoke volumes about the true nature of their relationship. Together, they were stronger than ever, and they knew they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, raising their family with new values. As Meghan transformed, so too did the way she and Harry approached their roles as parents. Their children, Archie and Lilibet, were growing up in a different world than the one Harry had experienced. While Harry had been raised within the confines of royal tradition, his own children would have the freedom to explore the world on their own terms. Meghan's transformation had instilled in both her and Harry a deep desire to raise their children with values of kindness, empathy, and independence, values that they themselves held dear. Meghan's work, advocating for women's rights, racial equality, and mental health, became an integral part of their family's mission. She and Harry began to raise their children with an understanding of the world beyond their own experiences, instilling in them a sense of responsibility to make a positive impact on the world. The couple emphasized the importance of using their platform for good, teaching their children that their voices mattered and that they had the power to make a difference. Raising children outside the royal spotlight, Meghan and Harry sought to provide them with a more normal upbringing, one that balanced fame with the simple joys of life. They encouraged their kids to appreciate the value of hard work, compassion, and community. Their household was one filled with love, learning, and an ongoing commitment to creating a better world. Meghan's transformation had given them both the tools to parent in a way that was thoughtful, grounded, and future-focused. As they raised their children, Meghan's transformation became a touchstone for how they would lead their family. They wanted to ensure that their children grew up with a sense of purpose, just as Meghan had found. It wasn't just about wealth or privilege, it was about compassion, integrity, and a deep commitment to improving the world. Meghan and Harry wanted to give their children the tools to live meaningful lives, grounded in the values that had come to define their own personal journeys. The emotional moment that changed everything. The day that Prince Harry found himself in tears, witnessing Meghan's transformation, marked a pivotal moment in their relationship and in their lives. It wasn't just the change in Meghan herself, it was the realization of how far they had come together. Meghan, once uncertain and unsure of her place in the world, had transformed into a confident and powerful force, and Harry couldn't have been more proud. The tears weren't born out of sadness. Rather, they came from a deep well of emotion, gratitude, and awe at the woman Meghan had become. He saw in her everything he had always admired: her strength, her intelligence, her unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. But most importantly, he saw in her the partner he had always hoped for, a woman who would not just walk beside him, but lead with him. In that moment, Harry realized that they had grown together as individuals and as a couple, and their journey had only just begun. The tears reflected the joy he felt for Meghan's transformation, but they also symbolized the realization that they were on the verge of something even greater, a future built on love, support, and shared values. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, Harry knew they could face them together, moving forward together. The transformation of Meghan Markle had not only affected her, but it had changed the entire course of her and Harry's lives. As they moved forward, they did so with a renewed sense of purpose. Meghan's newfound strength and confidence had breathed new life into their relationship, and together, they were forging ahead with a vision for the future that was uniquely their own. The journey had been long, filled with obstacles and challenges, but Meghan and Harry had come out stronger on the other side. They were no longer the couple that had been constantly scrutinized by the press. They had become two individuals who had found their own voices and were using them to create lasting change.